Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, March 25th, 2018. Happy 45th anniversary Y&R fans! In honor of 45 years of Y&R, here is a cheery domestic violence storyline with a special bonus for us. Viktor Newman pushed down a flight of stairs, and just for kicks, Dena says that Jack is not John's biological son. Gee, where to start? Where to start? I think I'm going to choose to start on the topic that is weighing the most heavily on me. I know it's the topic that's been weighing the most heavily on you. So let's just get into it. Let's just address the elephant of the week. JT and Victoria got into another argument. First, JT verbally abused her, and then he physically abused her. JT grabbed Victoria by her neck, shoved her up against the wall, then he made a fist, and he rammed that fist into the wall next to her head. All week, Y&R has been running these special title cards at the halfway point of the show. I don't know if you had a chance to notice them, but they were these beautiful, happy, jubilant photos of all of our favorite characters smiling and holding a 45th anniversary or birthday cake. They're holding a hashtag Y&R sign. There's this pillow of an emoji with the heart eyes, and it's so happy to see the celebration of our wonderful show, and then to come back from the commercial break, seeing all that happiness, to witness Victoria smearing makeup on her neck to cover up the brutal bruising that has developed. I think it's an odd tone. I think it's an odd choice of timing for telling this story. And I wonder how you guys are feeling about it. Overall, the JT Victoria domestic abuse storyline, let's consider it as a story, as Y&R deciding to just move forward with a set of stories around domestic violence. Do you think stories like this need to be told on Y&R? Is this something that you applaud them for doing? Or do you feel like this is a topic that maybe would be better left not addressed? I'd like to know what you guys think about Y&R making this choice. Not only making this choice, but making it now as they're celebrating 45 years. YRChat.com. I would love to see your votes, get your opinions. I think I'm going to surprise you a little bit with my opinion, because I normally really hate dark storylines like this, and I will admit that it bummed me out. I mean, that's an understatement. It was very difficult. Obviously, it goes without saying, it was difficult to watch this story. I certainly hate to see Victoria treated this way. I certainly hate to see JT behave this way, but I have to applaud the show for having the guts to show this brutality, to really show what domestic abuse looks like, because this is it. This is what domestic abuse looks like. There is violence, there is denial, there are a lot of emotions that go on to it. There are a lot of players in the peripheral that go on, that, you know, go with it. I think Y&R has chosen to show us also the way that domestic violence tends to progress. It doesn't just start out with one person abusing the other, or both abusing each other. It's something that develops over time and it builds. And I think that Y&R has done a good job of showcasing that, and specifically how something like this can happen to even the smartest, most beautiful, most capable women, people. I mean, the victims are so deeply manipulated that they can't see what's going on. Sometimes also the family members can't even see things that the victim is not able to see. I thought that was highlighted very well as Nikki tries to give JT some constructive criticism early in the week, saying that sometimes the way he talks to Victoria, it can come off as controlling or, you know, not constructive criticism. And even though that comment was meant to be helpful and meant to be loving, JT took it, he spun it, and then he erupts at Victoria about it. I also do have to give credit to Thad Luckenbill for taking this type of a gritty role. I can only imagine what his reaction must have been in realizing that they were taking a character that he's known and originated and no one else has played. This is his character, and that they were going to take it in this direction. Do you think that Y&R knew they were going to develop a domestic abuse storyline when they brought JT back? Because I don't. I somehow feel like this is something they decided along the way. I don't know why. I mean, there were certainly clues here and there along the way. We did see hints of aggressive behavior toward Reed. I mean, we saw JT kind of grab Reed in the coffee house and have an argument with him one time that Sharon broke up. So we saw that kind of aggressive behavior maybe bubbling in the background, but it was nothing like this. Being a fan of daytime, it is shocking to me to see violence against women on the screen, especially on a show that has a primarily female audience. It reminded me a little bit of a hint toward domestic abuse that we had a few years ago with Avery. Do you remember Phyllis's sister Avery? And she had an ex-husband named Joe who grabbed her, bruised her arm, and there was an implication that he had done that in the past. I think maybe that he had even hit her in the face. So this, it isn't new. I mean, even though Y&R, I think, has not taken it maybe to this extreme with a main character, we certainly have seen some type of indication of domestic abuse storylines in the past. And, you know, I want to make sure I mention that domestic abuse happens to men too. That it's certainly not just something that happens to women, and for men, in many ways, it can be even harder to admit that something like that is going on. So maybe there's a woman or a man out there watching Y&R this week that, you know, even though it is so hard to watch, maybe there is someone out there who is seeing some parallels between what's happening on the screen and what's happening in their life. Maybe this story could actually help someone get out of this type of situation. I think that Sharon's work at the crisis center would be an interesting tie-in here, because certainly Victoria needs help. People need help getting out of this type of situation. Victoria needs guidance. JT's hold on her is deep rooted. It is strategic and it is deep rooted. Victoria is not going to listen to anyone telling her that she shouldn't be with JT. We saw a little hint of that between a conversation she had with Nikki after the abuse. She didn't want to hear anything negative about JT. So there's not going to be someone who will be able to just come in and tell her JT's a bad guy and then she just lets it go. At this point, Victoria's not going to listen to someone else if she's stopped listening to herself. And I do think that's where we are. Immediately after the abuse incident, Victoria runs upstairs to the bathroom and she's terrified. She's shaken. I think she's shell-shocked that this has just happened. That someone who is supposed to love her and is supposed to protect her not only grabbed her throat, which is a kill move. I mean, it's not a smack. It's not a punch. Going for someone's throat is going for their life. There's that, and there are the things that he said to her that hit at the core of who she is. That someone that you know and that you trust and that you know knows you intimately believes and can say that you are dirt, that you are a bad mother, you are a bad executive, you are a bad daughter, you're a bad wife, nothing about you is good. That someone you know and trust can believe that of you hits you mentally in addition to having been hit physically. She locks the door out of fear, so she's afraid of him, and predictably he follows her to the bathroom and now he's sorry. He starts talking to her from outside the door, rationalizing to her, maybe even to himself, I don't know, trying to make excuses for what he did. And the way he approached it, again, this is systematic, this is manipulative, this is strategic. JT telling her, the thing is, you're just so amazing, Victoria. I look at you and I think you're just so great. And then I look at myself in comparison and I'm such a loser. I feel like such a loser. I'll never measure up to what you are. And sorry, but you just pushed my buttons. When I feel like a loser next to you, that just pushes my buttons. And I only grabbed your throat because you slapped me. You went ballistic and slapped me. Now, listen to me, Y&R Chatters. I watched that scene half a dozen times. I went back and I watched it and back and I watched it and back and I watched it. Victoria did not slap him. Victoria did not slap him. She did not initiate the physicality of the argument. They were arguing verbally. She tried to push past him, to get away from him. He shoved her back. He restrained her. And when she tried to lash out to get away, mildly I might add, the hands were barely moving, he put his hands all over her. I mean, she didn't even attempt to do anything physical until his hands were already on her. And if you think that went any other way, go back and watch the scene. This again speaks to the strategic manipulation that we're seeing out of JT. Isn't it interesting that he was able to rewrite that incident in Victoria's mind and maybe even in your mind instantly? Because as soon as he said that about you slapping me, I said, I don't remember her slapping him. So I went back and watched it. He rewrote the story, and now in Victoria's mind, she slapped him. So she maybe deserved it a little. She started it. Isn't that interesting? So within a few moments, Victoria is the bad guy. That's all it took. A couple of moments. Now Victoria's the bad guy. Now Victoria's comforting JT. Now Victoria's saying, I'm sorry. JT didn't say I'm sorry. JT said, me too. I think it's a very bold and smart choice of the writers to tell this story using an established character. JT isn't just a one-dimensional villain that Y&R brought onto the show 3 months ago to just have him do this thing and then go away. JT, whether you remember it or not, was part of a very popular teen storyline along with other characters who are still on the show and went on to become major players within our little Genoa City universe here. So JT's no small potatoes. He had a career. He had a whole life. He had other romances before he ever met Victoria. They were married. We saw JT and Victoria have a child. We saw them go through it. We saw them have a bitter divorce. And then even after Victoria, we saw him fall in love with Mac. I bring this up because I don't think this storyline would have been as impactful had they decided to use just this a one-dimensional villain character. We, as the audience, can't just write JT off in the way that we would write off some guy that we haven't known very long. The entirety of a person's life certainly cannot be summed up in 3 months of behavior and of actions. Nobody's all one thing. I think JT needs help too. Maybe that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think JT needs help. And I hope that we, as fans, will get to, experience letting this character have some justice, that we can see him not only being served justice for the actions, but also being done justice in a recovery storyline. That's what I'd like to see. As far as his romantic relationship with Victoria, though, that needs to be done as soon as possible. That needs to be ended immediately. The fact that all this happened and that she could let him put his hands on her sexually after what he did physically, and then to have sex with him, and then to accept a marriage proposal from him. I mean, and to hear him rationalize about how they're just passionate. This is just who we are. This is just the passion and how it goes. Having sex and getting engaged a few hours after his hands are on her throat is bad, bad, bad. I hope nobody is takes it at all as if I'm trying to make excuses. Obviously not, for JT and his behavior. I just want help for him too. Yet, even if he got help for his anger management, there are still there's still other issues. I never want to see he and Victoria together ever. We need this needs to be over. We need to see justice for everyone. Even if you took the domestic violence out of this story, there's still more issues between them. We, the audience, are omniscient. We know there's more going on with JT. We know there's an act of manipulation above and beyond the abuse. He's in her home. He's in her family business, working this unpaid job for the police under duress, being forced to materialize some evidence that will send her father to prison. I mean, the fact that all of this went down and he never said a word about that, and he's talking and preaching about how honest they should be with each other, and he never said a word about any of that, makes every word that comes out of his mouth suspect and untrustworthy. I'm kind of desperate for something fun to talk about. Like, I wish Y&R was more fun this week. Normally, I do intentionally leave the stories that are difficult or heart-wrenching or sad. I leave that for the end of Y&R Chat, because then, like, it's hard for me to keep up the momentum if I start out on a down note. But there's not a whole lot of happy notes that we're gonna hit this week. Maybe next week something happy will happen. Continuing on, Paul has put the pressure on JT to step up his spy game. So JT is snooping around in Viktor's home office upstairs at the ranch. New sets. I don't think we've seen those before. We certainly haven't seen Viktor's office, but I don't think we've even seen the hallway. So I should have known immediately when we saw Viktor's home office that something was going to happen there. Something epic. I just didn't realize it was going to be what it was. JT is snooping around. He finds Viktor's private safe, convinced that there's going to be some evidence of some wrongdoing in there. He is able to crack open the safe, and he finds a key inside. He eventually realizes that that key will unlock the inside of Viktor's chessboard. I don't know that much about chess, but I didn't know that chessboards needed to be locked, but that's a little secret hiding space for Viktor. And JT sneaks back into the ranch late one night, pops that key into the chessboard hole, and just as he's unlocking it, Viktor flips on the light. It was all a setup. Viktor, we had hints of this a couple weeks ago. He's on to JT. Viktor has cameras installed in the safe. Viktor has cameras installed in Victoria's house. He knows everything. He saw everything. It's difficult to imagine that Viktor didn't act immediately. I get the sense that Viktor just found out, like, whoever was monitoring the cameras for Viktor definitely let a few hours go by. It wasn't a live, they weren't monitoring in real time, or Viktor would have gotten an immediate phone call. It sounds like Viktor, you know, he hadn't found out about it very long before JT ended up showing up at the ranch, but he tells JT, he just says, come on upstairs. I want to talk to you. I'm surprised he even gave him that. I mean, we should have been suspicious there, right? I'm surprised he didn't just pound him into hamburger right then and there. They argue. JT's upstairs in Viktor's office. They start to argue, and Viktor tells him what a small man he is, which he is. That, you know, that he's been beaten. Essentially, that you know, he's not gonna catch Viktor doing anything. He's not certainly ever gonna come near Victoria again. JT just needs to get out of town, or Viktor is going to see to it that JT loses everything, including his, his children with Mac, who he's already embroiled in this custody battle over. And, you know, JT's not going to have this. We've seen now that JT is violent. He takes a swing at Viktor. Viktor, he kind of ducks at first, and he's able to, like, whomp JT a few good times. JT's trying to fight back, but Viktor is winning, of course. Viktor's literally tossing JT around the room like he's a rag doll. The fight breaks out into the hallway toward the top of the stairs. JT gets Viktor into the perfect position, then rushes him and knocks him down a flight of stairs. down the stairs he goes. We just see this epic close-up shot of Viktor realizing that he's falling. It was great. I loved his reaction. It was excellent. And then I don't know how they did the effect. They probably green screened it and then like had Eric Braeden flipped back. I want to see the behind the scenes of that. I want to see the making of that stunt. That would be enjoyable to me. And then of course there's a stunt double falling down the stairs, and then we see Viktor lying there at the bottom with JT up at the top looking down on him. Wow. Okay. I mean, you didn't have to go to that trouble, Y&R. It was good. It was everything else. You didn't have to do all that. I was fine with, we would have had enough to talk about with just JT and Victoria. I didn't need JT pushing Viktor down a flight of stairs too, but okay. It was clear by the look on JT's face. And by the way, I watched that scene twice. He pushed him. It wasn't an accident. JT pushed him down the stairs. But at the same time, I get this sense from JT that he totally did not expect that to happen. This was not exactly how he expected that to play out. Me too. I just can bet that JT could really go for, like a shot of whiskey. Maybe he's going to go down to Viktor's bar and have a couple drinks of tequila and maybe pop a few pills right about now. Jack is back. Jack is back from his European vacation, and he comes bearing gifts. He has a gift for Abby, a gift for Ashley. Well, Ashley has a gift of her own for Jack. Legal papers. She's suing him for defamation of character in response to his attempted frame job partnership with Victoria. Not exactly the warm homecoming that Jack was hoping for. You couple that with the fact that his mother is walking around thinking that he's her dead husband. I mean, your mom thinking that you're married to her has gotta wear on you after a while. And then Jack thinks he's gonna go do something good by joining the Rainbow Gardens project at Nick and Nikki's request, and Viktor manages to sully the whole thing by joining the project too. Like, Viktor makes Jack's happy project, him trying to do something positive, he makes it 100 times more victory, and it just ruins the whole thing for Jack. Viktor and Jack get in a fight, which Jack takes from 0 to 60 way unnecessarily and way fast. Like, Viktor and Jack have been going at it for years, and all of a sudden, the same thing that they always do, the going back and forth verbally, gets physical really quick. Like, Jack lunges at Viktor, he has to be held back, and then he says this line, "I cannot wait until the day you drop dead." I knew that line was going to be significant from the moment it escaped Jack's mouth. Jack he goes home. He's so distraught. He starts to drink. He has a few drinks at home, has a few drinks at the athletic club. I thought Peter Bergman did a really excellent job in in his drunk acting. It's not an easy thing to pull off because it can easily come off as fake or comedic, but I thought that he seemed really drunk, and I thought that was a good little piece of acting. He's spouting off about Viktor in public, making a scene. Well, I mean, it probably doesn't take a rocket scientist. I can bet you 100 tacos right now that Jack is on his way to the ranch. He's going to show up there, see Viktor lying on the floor, and JT will be long, long gone by then. Remember, JT was wearing gloves during all of this. He went there under the premise of a spy job, so he's wearing gloves. There's not going to be fingerprints anywhere on anything, and then we're just going to probably end up like with Jack standing there, like, who knows, as the police arrive or something. Jack's going to find himself in the middle of a whodunit. I hope Viktor doesn't end up having amnesia or go into a coma or something after this. This writing team is really good at moving things along. I mean, this week moved fast, so I don't think they'll go coma route, but I do wonder if there's going to be a whodunit. The other suspect I could think of would be Nikki, right? Or that's who, might be under suspicion. I just have a feeling that she's going to need an alibi, and her alibi is the fact that she was off having a passionate fling with a man half her age. Hey, the majority of Y&R chatters were not feeling Nikki and Arturo. The poll question I asked you last week was if you were feeling the heat. 58% of you said no, but that's still a pretty decently split vote. 42% said yes, somebody hand me a fan. Oh man, I don't know. It seems that there's a lot of talk, well, specifically from Nick, about how Viktor's going to react when he finds out about Nikki's affair. And Nick keeps warning her that she's playing with fire. That has to be leading towards something. And even though Nikki did her best to kind of be she snips into mom mode with Nick and says, you know what, mommy's happy. Your father and I have a don't ask, don't tell arrangement. Nothing for you to worry about. So, okay. Questions answered. Yet, Nick keeps bringing it up, and I will say he did make a really good point, saying you and Dad may have an arrangement, but the thing about Viktor is he has one set of rules for himself and one set of rules for everyone else. That is such a good line, and it is so, so true. So I wonder if Y&R's building some kind of reaction from Viktor when he finds out about this, but for crying out loud, he's got a lot going on. This is a bad week to be Viktor Newman. I'm just imagining that Nikki's gonna have to tell everybody what her scandalous alibi is, and that's how Viktor's gonna find out about this. Talk about insult to injury. His former son-in-law nearly kills him while his wife is out having hanky-panky with some young stud. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to ask you guys is do you think there's any chance that Nikki wasn't meeting with Arturo? I haven't seen Monday's show or the spoilers or anything like that, but I just thought it was interesting that at the end of Friday's episode, Nikki shows up at the hotel room and she's got this big smile on her face, but we didn't see who she's smiling at. Is there any chance, and wouldn't it be almost like extra scandalous if we found out that Nikki was having more than one affair? Sharon is the one who gave Nick the idea to move forward with expanding the Rainbow Gardens project, and then he didn't offer to involve her any further. It's definitely not a nice move, but does anybody else think that Sharon way overreacted about it? She's offended. She feels taken for granted, and so she tells Nick that he has to find another place to live. That cannot be all there is to it. I can only imagine that Sharon just didn't realize how living with Nick would affect her, falling back into the old patterns, and they were patterns that didn't work, by the way. This is a marriage that ultimately has failed many times, and here they are living together and falling back into the same things they did before that didn't really result in any kind of successful relationship. I think it's also unearthing old feelings for her, maybe even feelings about herself that she just wasn't prepared to deal with. So that, I can only imagine, was part of her reaction. I don't know. After talking to Mariah, Nick realized that what he did was selfish, so he apologizes to Sharon, and they both realize that they're not the same people anymore. They can't approach this as if they are the same people they were 20 years ago. They need to start treating each other as, you know, as accordingly as the adults that they are today. And in many ways, it's almost like starting over again. And what is a better way, I ask you, to get to know someone all over again than to have a hot and heavy makeout session? I guess that's supposed to be the cherry on top of the cake of the week. That's supposed to be our little gift. I mean, we had to put up with all this other craziness and like rocking the foundation of everything we know about Y&R. But here we go. Here we have a nice Nick and Sharon make-out sesh. The chemistry between Nick and Sharon is undeniable. She like looked up at him and kissed him, and the way he just scooped her up in his arms, it looked like the cover of a romance novel. They could have been right there if she was wearing maybe something a little scantily. It's like a hot summer, and maybe it's like a little see-through and off one shoulder, like a little dress or something, and you know, Nick's like just jeans and no shirt. Like that would be the cover of a romance novel, the way they filmed it and framed it. They're very sexy, they're very entertaining. I love Nick and Sharon. I'm a forever Nick and Sharon fan. I just needed there to be some more build up though. I mean, I've been waiting for this moment for years. And he and Chelsea just broke up like 3 weeks ago. It's kind of hard to think about and even really to care about Victoria's position at Newman Enterprises right now with everything that's going on with JT, but I still have to bring a few little points up. Ashley told Viktor that she would only return to Newman Enterprises on the condition that he fired Victoria. Victoria had to be gone or Ashley wouldn't come back. Well, I guess Ashley's ultimatum was a little more flexible than she let on, because she agrees to come back to the company if Victoria takes a demotion, which she does. She's now the senior VP of operations, and it's clear that Viktor didn't want to have to make this decision or put himself or anyone else in this position. He promises to minimize the interactions that Victoria and Ashley will have together, but then he forces Victoria to take Ashley to lunch to apologize, to make peace. There is no peace between these two. I mean, like, I would enjoy the bitchiness so much more if I wasn't feeling so much empathy for Victoria, and knowing that the Victoria we're looking at is someone who's really, really not in her right mind, not on her game. I mean, she's in danger. She needs help, not hurt. I mean, I did like that Victoria told Ashley, she puts her on notice, says, "I'll be watching you." And Ashley says, "Please do. Please do. Watch and learn, will you? Can I see a menu?" I want to enjoy that. I want to be able to get into that, but boy, it's so hard. Like, I mean, so much for taking the high road, Ashley. I don't want, it's gonna be hard to watch Victoria get knocked around at home and then knocked around at work too. Maybe Abby can be the bridge between Victoria and Ashley. The Abbott girls get this idea to video record Dena's memory. Like, while she's still lucid, preserve some of her memories and her stories and her life on camera. I think this is a great idea for Dena. It's a great idea for the family. It seemed like it was a really positive thing. Abby is the one who was taking the lead on the project, and it seems to have made her think a lot about family too, you know, and what it's like to have a sibling. And I think Abby was relating that to Victoria a little bit, as Ashley, of course, was thinking about family and relating it to her relationship with Jack. Dena told this bittersweet story of how much Ashley used to idolize her big brother, and just a way that we saw this flashback scene told through this old home movie lens, which I thought was an interesting artistic choice, given the fact that Abby is in the process of digitally filming Dena, and then hear from her flashback perspective perspective. We're looking at it from an old home movie lens, and it's, it's a story of Jack trying to help Ashley, to make her feel good, playing with her tea set with her. It was very sweet, but bittersweet, and not enough certainly to wipe away everything that's come after. So on Friday, Abby sits down for an interview, which Dena insists on. She's obviously not well. She's not in her right state. She's calling Jack John, yet she insists on an interview. And she starts talking about John, and very quickly, privately with Abby, turns it into a secret that she's been keeping. She begins to talk about a secret that she has had to take with her to her grave. And then she immediately turns around and blurts it out to Abby that she actually had many affairs on John, affairs that had consequences, and Jack is one of those consequences, that Jack is not John's son. Oh, Lord. Again, we had, okay, you could have stopped. We had Victoria and JT, we had Viktor down the stairs. That would have been fine. I didn't need all this. But, well, what can I do? What can I do? It's been dropped on, the information's been dropped on us. The information has been dropped on Abby. There's nothing you can do to turn it back. We can't undo, we can't put this genie back in the bottle. What's Abby gonna do? Is she gonna tell Ashley? Is she gonna tell Jack? Is there any chance? I think this would probably be a really good twist, though. Is there any chance that Jack shot himself in the foot with that blood Abbott clause, and ultimately he's going to be booting himself out of his own company by going that route? I think that would be really juicy. But at the same time, can we really even trust a memory that's being told to us by a person with Alzheimer's? See, I think that is a fascinating and complex question here. That has to be something that that the family members of someone with Alzheimer's have to constantly be asking themselves. Is that true? Is that true? It's so gray. I mean, there's no fact checking, right? I mean, this is all gray area. We don't have John's DNA. We can't run a DNA test or a paternity test, right? This is all based on Dena's word, and Dena's words are diseased at this point. I mean, I honestly wouldn't even give this credence at all if it weren't for a story that she told earlier in the week. Dena sits down with Abby to fill in some of the blanks that we discussed last week about Dena's relationship with John and how they began and being high school sweethearts. And Dena recalled some of the facts with fact-checkable certainty. I mean, she recalled things that were easily fact-checked. So I assume that scene existed to let us know that even though Dena slips in and out of reality, there are certain memories, certain facts that are important enough to her to remain intact despite the disease. For a writer, it must be so tempting to have such an incredible blank canvas for such legacy characters. I mean, how is it that we've known John Abbott forever, we've known of Dena for quite a while, and yet we really don't know that much about either of them? I don't recall ever knowing anything about John's parents, where he came from. I don't know anything about where Dena came from, her upbringing, and we're still at this point now learning so much about Dena. Apparently she's just a little bit of a floozy. Oh, how do you guys feel about this twist? Because I have a feeling it's going to be met with some very mixed reactions. I'm of two minds, because I love a good story, but I also love my continuity. I need certain things to be a certain way. Like it doesn't matter how many times Y&R tells me this. Jill and Lauren are not sisters. I I just flat refuse to believe it. Like, Jill just is Catherine's daughter in my mind, and I just went along with the other stories. I'm okay, well, that's fine, but I'm not gonna believe it. So I can feel that this is gonna be a tough one for a lot of people, and I feel it too. I don't really like someone new, like a new writer coming in and messing with my legacy of something that I've that I've been with for 25 years, and many of you 45 years. So it's gonna be tough. I think though that it is going to give us an interesting journey when it comes to Jack. I think it's going to create some nuance for his character. Like, all these years, Jack feeling like he could never measure up to John, and probably wondering how he could even be John Abbott's son in the first place when they're so different. And now Y&R's planting this seed that he might not be. I think it's a great device for pushing our characters into new places. I mean, for crying out loud, the two main Abbott children, the heads of the family, are not really Abbotts at all. Gosh, I tell you what, I really like the concept, but in the end, I'm gonna need Jack to still be John's son, okay? This is such a small thing, but I really love that Charlie was present at Lily's request to help Abby set up the video equipment for Dena telling her story about she and John's marriage. I just thought that was a nice touch. It added like a multi-generational interest in Dena's story. I mean, yeah, as we get old, we do have these great tales. We have lives that have been lived, and our experiences deserve to be listened to and to be respected. So respect your elders, youngins. And I also really liked that Charlie in this artsy media role kind of reminds me of young photographer Malcolm in a way, and I've missed that role being filled, so I thought that was kind of cool. Now Lily is stepping up her shady game. She wants to stop Hillary and Devon from having a baby, and it's gonna take some out of the box thinking for her. Lily's natural, I think, inclination is not to be sneaky, and yet she's gonna have to be sneaky to get something done about it. At first, Lily tried appealing to Hillary. She was like really up on her high horse talking to Hillary about how conceiving a baby that's not made in love is wrong, wrong, wrong. And Hillary wasn't hearing it. She was not having it. And so when that didn't work, Lily just decided to call Hillary's doctor and cancel her insemination appointment, pretending to be Hillary's assistant. Ugh, Miss Lily. She's definitely taking it to the next level here. And Hillary knows she did it. It was kind of obvious who did it. I think even Devon knew deep down that Lily did it. Did you see the way he tried to steer the conversation away when Hillary confronted Lily about it? Devon tried real quick to just change the topic. I think he knew it. It's at least a little bit of a nice change of pace that Cain and Lily shared some honesty about it, though, because I assumed Lily would deny it, and yet she didn't. She confesses to Cain, tells Cain exactly what she did, and surprisingly, Cain didn't chastise her for it. In fact, he wants to join in the show. They say, we're gonna vow to work together to stop Hillary and Devon from going through with this baby. I mean, okay, I understand why, I get why Lily and Cain feel like Hillary is always up in their business, or Hillary did something to interfere with their lives, so they want some retribution on her. But what are they even gonna do? What are they gonna do to stop Hillary and Devon? I mean, maybe what we're gonna see are some hijinks. Lily and Cain trying to do things on the level of canceling the appointments that might interrupt Hillary and Devon's plans. But if they're planning like a sperm switch or something like that, I don't want to see it. That feels unnecessarily cruel. Gotta love those endorphins, huh? I can assure you, it's not the endorphins that are making Nikki glow. That was our quote from last week. Nikki said, gotta love those endorphins, when Viktor commented on how great she's looking. Yeah. Nikki's getting a little extra massages and things going on. It's making her feel better than a workout ever could, probably. So, congratulations to our winners who guessed that quote came out of Nikki's mouth. It was Henry, Lynn, Keisha, Angela, Tony, Ambreen, Gina, Jamie, Isabel, Irene, Coral, and Consuela. Congratulations, you guys. This was just a little, I'll give you a new one, and it was just a little pop quick moment, and I just liked it. I thought it was cute. Wedding or funeral? Who said it? Wedding or funeral? If you think you know, go to yrchat.com. Leave me your guess, and if you get it right, I will give you your shout out next week. As I'm sure you can imagine, I got a lot of comments this week. So let's waste no more time and get right to them. Let's start out though on our poll question from last week about Nikki and Arturo. Diana says she likes the idea of Abby and Arturo getting together, as it will likely cause some more conflict between her and Victoria. Victoria won't like the idea that Abby is making moves on her mother's boy toy. Yes, we did have that little moment at the coffee house where Abby and Arturo bumped into one another, and of course, all of our little radars were going off about that. Y&R's probably just going to be testing Arturo with Abby, or who knows, maybe even with somebody else. Abby really does not have a whole lot of good luck in the relationship department, so she needs something good to come her way. Rose was commenting about my chat last week, saying I felt a little bit bad for Viktor, knowing that Nikki was running around on him. And Rose says, I was surprised that you were feeling bad for Viktor, Allie. I mean, don't forget that Viktor blackmailed Nikki into this sham marriage. He'll be fine. Okay, point taken. I can't help it. You know, I got a soft spot for Viktor. I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. Kara says, I am so glad that Sharon and Nick finally kissed. They're a great couple who always finds their way back. I'm so glad that you loved that, Kara, too, because it's like, you know, easy to criticize the quickness of the relationship, but you can't deny the chemistry. Oh, let's see. Oh, I like this zinger from Rose regarding Lily. Rose says, Lily's raising her husband's love child while actively judging two single consenting adults choosing to have a child together. Hey, Lily, maybe you need to focus on your new business, keeping track of Cain and finding out if that kid took his ACT yet. Oh, that was good. Good. Okay, gosh, I got a lot of comments. A lot of people needed to talk about Victoria and JT, and I'm glad that you had a place to do it. It was tough to watch. I think that all goes without saying, but I think I picked a good variety of comments here to give us everyone's, or at least a good sampling of reactions about Victoria and JT. Tina Cole says, my hope is that JT gets caught for pushing Viktor down the stairs and that he was at the ranch. I feel there will be some mystery on who did it, but if Viktor has a secret camera in his safe and the ranch has security, then there would be security cameras for his house. That's a good point. It's certainly possible that the entire argument between JT and Viktor would have been caught on tape. Maybe JT's going to be off on the run after this. Ellen says, the fight between Viktor and JT had me rolling my eyes around 360 degrees. Did you see the guns on JT when he was shirtless with Victoria? That man lives in the gym and he's never looked at a carb. Viktor's twice his age. Come on now. There is no way Viktor throws JT around like a rag doll. Must be in Eric Braden's contract that he gets to win all fights. Unless he tumbled down the stairs accidentally, that is. Were you guys perceiving that tumble as an accident? Because I watched it more than once. I mean, JT pushed him. I mean, it could not have escaped JT's field of vision that Viktor was standing right at the top of the stairs. Maybe I misinterpreted, but I don't think so. But the zinger about it being in Eric Braden's contract, Ellen, yes. You just know it. Viktor always has to win. It's in the contract. Okay. Connor says, I want to tip my hat to the writers who have done a great job of bringing everyday situations to Y&R. Going back to the same-sex relationship, friendship with Mariah and Tessa, Dina's Alzheimer's, and now domestic violence with JT and Victoria. Connor, you're hitting on something I was thinking too, is that it does almost seem like this writing team is an issues writing team. They are definitely taking on things that are hard hitting. It almost seems like we should have PSAs for a lot of these storylines. We did see Amelia Heinle come on to the end of the abuse episode, the actual incident, and she did a PSA for domestic violence, and we've seen the same thing happen with Alzheimer's. I mean, it does just seem like these writers are really trying to take on the issues. Jamie left me a voicemail, and this is so interesting. Jamie watches the show with her daughter, Isabel, and Jamie says, I struggled with whether or not I should let Isabel watch the scenes with Victoria and JT. She usually fast forwards some of the more saucy parts of the show, but ultimately decided to let her see it. Jamie says, this is the world, and I'd rather Isabel see this kind of thing with me here so that we can talk about it together. And Isabel ultimately was glad that she was able to see this scene. Now, I really love this comment, Jamie, because it's like I feel like I normally would dislike seeing something so violent and so brutal on the show, but this is also, it does feel real, and it does feel like something that not only just people who might be involved in a situation like this can benefit from, but young women, young men, anybody watching this show. I think this is a really good example for them to see. I've never personally been involved in any kind of domestic violence dispute. I mean, look at me. I've never been punched or slapped ever. You could probably tell. I don't know what I'd do. I'd curl into a ball. But I think that part of the reason why I haven't been in a situation like that is because my mom was very clear with me about domestic abuse. I mean, she really instilled it in me that I should never let a man hurt me. Never let someone hurt you. And, you know, we didn't have the benefit of soaps, but I think that, you know, soaps, you know, or a platform like this really can help get a conversation going between mothers and daughters, or just any family member, anybody, friends. It gets a conversation going about it. And in that way, I think it's really beneficial, and I think it's really good. And I'm glad that you guys did watch it together and talk about it. I mean, it's things like this that can really go on to impact how you live your life, the kinds of relationships that you do have. I mean, this is all knowledge that I think can be very useful to anyone. So good job. Good on you. Let's see. Harper also says, I'm so glad that Y&R is tackling the subject of domestic violence. It's very real in our society, and I'm ready for Viktor to rain down some terror on JT. It is very real, Harper. You know, I mean, it's like this is something that women, I mean, and men are going through. And, you know, and maybe you don't recognize it. That's the thing about it, is you don't necessarily recognize it when you're in it. So maybe seeing it projected on your screen and on somebody from, looking at it from the outside might help someone realize that they're in a situation like this and didn't even know it. Laura left a letter for Victoria here. Dear Victoria, there are 50 ways to leave your lover. Walk out the door. Someone else can go back, grab you and the kids' stuff, just walk out the door. Signed, a friend. I love this comment, Laura, too, because that made me wonder if maybe JT was abusing Mac. Is it possible that the entire reason that Mac not only left JT, but also is suing to keep him away from the children is because he was abusive to her and possibly even the kids too? I'm sure. That's got to start to be revealed next week, because I think next week, in fact, tomorrow I think is the 45th anniversary, and we're supposed to have the Walnut Grove Academy centennial reunion thingy, and that's when all the people are supposed to be coming back. So maybe on Monday we'll get to hear Mac's side of the story. I hope so. T. Nicole says, even before JT had her in a chokehold and punched the wall, the verbal vomit coming out of JT's mouth was cruel and disgusting. To want to put someone down and make them feel worse about themselves is a pure, horrible thing to do. Agreed, T. Nicole. It's also just like, it's such a base, childish emotion to need to make someone feel less than, or to make them feel bad so that you can feel good. It's so juvenile. I didn't want this for JT, that's for sure, but we got it. We really got it. Consuela says, what really irks my nerves about JT's, in quotes, apology was that I don't think he took full responsibility for his actions. I don't think he fully comprehends that he choked her, that he had his hands around her throat. I agree, Consuela. I'm not even sure that he knows how he's manipulating. I'm not sure he really knows what he's doing. If he does have some kind of drug problem or something like that, then who knows, he could be in a drug haze for all we know. But I don't even want to make an excuse like that to say he doesn't know. I mean, I don't have the mentality of an abuser. I'm like a little kitten. I'm just a kitten. So I don't know. I have a kitten heart. It's hard for me to put myself in his shoes, even though I want to. Like, I want to believe that there's something redeemable and something good about anyone and everyone. And yeah, that can get you into trouble, though. Maybe not everyone is redeemable. And I think that's a really good topic here. Diana says, I think and hope that Y&R will have JT's behavior be attributed to him having been electrocuted in the past. Maybe it did something to his brain, or the medication that he's taking makes him that way. I think there's a reason why the show reminded viewers of that electrocution happening when he first came back onto the show. The scenario would give JT a chance to redeem himself. Dr. Neville could come back and cure him. I just think Y&R didn't know what they were going to do. I think they knew they wanted to bring JT back, but I don't know. The electrocution, the pills, I mean, it's almost like they just threw a bunch of stuff at the wall and then decided what to go with, what was going to stick. That just, part of me feels that there's been enough loose ends that might never even be tied up, or if they are, that it's not going to be real satisfying, to just make me think that Y&R didn't know what they were going to do. And I don't know, do they know how they're going to move forward? Is there any chance that that JT's just going to go away on the run? Or are we going to get to see the completion of his story arc? I think I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, it is a little bit, it's going to suck a little bit if we don't get to see anything more of JT and understand why he did what he did. Like, I want some resolution, I guess. That's what it is. I want some answers from JT. I'm not trying to justify and would never justify anything that he's done. It makes me sick, but I want to understand why. Maybe that's just my personality or my own plight. Astra says, I was a fan of JT back in the day, And it is a shame that his character has been assassinated since he's been back. If they wanted a public service announcement about domestic violence, I wish it could have been done with a lesser character with no real connections and long history with the show. You know what, Astra? If they did this to JT and they don't give him any follow-up, then they might as well have just used a one-dimensional villain character. If they were just gonna discard him, then they could have just done that with anyone. If they went to the trouble of bringing this actor back, and they even connected like his revenge toward Viktor to Colleen, where he had this moment when he was arguing with Viktor about how Viktor never even thinks about her. You never even think about her, do you? And the fact that Viktor was connected to Colleen's death is what JT was implying, and maybe that's a motive that they were trying to plant seeds with quite a while ago that I didn't pick up on, the fact that JT might want revenge on Viktor for that. But it just, I mean, I don't know. Again, they didn't have, the fact that JT has this whole backstory with Colleen and Victoria and Mac, I mean, they didn't have to use a long-term character if they weren't going to actually follow up and give us some resolution. I'm getting myself worked up here. This is not easy to talk about. I mean, it's just not, the whole thing, it's taxing. I feel everything so deeply, and I'm feeling it, and I'm in it, and you know me, I'm trying to think of everything from a million different angles, and then it's just overwhelming. I need a nap. Shelley says there is no redeeming the character of JT. Absolutely none. Yes, I know there have been terrible things that other characters have done and have been redeemed for, but Y&R seems to be making this a public service announcement as well as a storyline. The way this story is unfolding, the show doesn't even seem to want to redeem him. Perhaps his return to the show was always known to be a shorter one. I think that's probably true. They probably were never going to bring him back long term. I always kind of did assume that he was going to be a shorter term stint. I just didn't think they were going to do this. Do you guys want to see him like go to jail? I remember that a couple weeks ago, no, maybe 2 weeks ago, Paul did say something to him about, hey, if you get caught in this mission, we're not going to be able to back you up. This is on you. So none of this is actually going to be able to be traced back to Paul and Christine. He was on an unpaid mission. All of this. It was his revenge mission. Superplex says what we certainly all must have been thinking here. Superplex says, I wonder, what's the real life emotional interaction when these two actors, Amelia Heinle and Thad Luckenbill, recite these lines? I mean, yeah, these two were married in real life. And they're acting out a domestic violence storyline within a relationship. Ooh. I mean, what are they saying? I mean, what happens when, I mean, at the end of the scene where she's got his hands on her throat and then punching a wall, what happens when, like, the bell rings and the director says cut? What are they saying? What is that like? Did they have to go through some kind of process of making each other feel okay? Or, like, I mean, are they having long discussions about this? I would love to know. I mean, are they doing any kind of press tour? Has anybody seen anything where they're maybe talking to one another and to the fans about this? Gosh, it's such a big deal. It is such a big deal. Oh, let's talk about Dena, the other big, I think one of the other big things that I got a lot of comments about. Jamie and Isabel, actually, I didn't even think of this, but they said, who on earth could be Jack's dad? My mind didn't even make it there yet. If John's not Jack's dad, then who are they going to say is Jack's dad? Oh, Lord, I don't know. Kara also says, I have to take my comment back from last week about Dena and not wanting to see the whole Alzheimer's story. Dena is about to turn Genoa City upside down. Could we find out, Kara says, that Jack is related to Viktor? Maybe they're brothers or something. Oh, Lord. Anna, I know John Abbott is Anna's all-time favorite character, and Anna says, what are they doing to the Abbotts? No one is gonna be John Abbott's kid. And Rose says, I have no other real comments other than just to cry and stomp my feet like a child and shout bad writing and beg for this to stop immediately. Leslie says, I despise Mal for making John not Jack's bio father, and he better take it back soon. However, I do have a preference for the bio dad, if it must be Philip Chancellor. Ooh. Well, first I have to say, I share it. My first gut reaction on this was, how dare you, Mal? You've been on the show for a year, and then you just come in, and then you take something fundamental, and then you think you're gonna twist it. Then, though, I'm like, okay, I gotta find something positive about it, though, because Y&R Chat. And so I started thinking about some other things that could be good about the story, but I'm on 100% the train of we need to make this a false alarm. Like, I'm okay to play with this story for a week or two, but in the end, I need it to resolve itself. I need Ashley to be John's daughter. Like, it's hard enough to accept that, but you're gonna make me try to wrap my brain around Jack not being John's son. That's too much, and I'm not gonna so here's the thing, you guys that are not happy about it. It's just like with Catherine and Jill. If you don't, just pretend it's not happening. Just don't believe it. That's the nice thing. You can at least go, no thanks. If you don't like it, just pretend it's not happening. It'll be over. Nobody will be talking about it in 6 months. So at least, you can just pretend it's not happening and focus on the other storylines. That's probably the best way to get through it. But Philip Chancellor being Jack's real father, that's an interesting idea. Gary, let's end on these zingers. Gary's got a good one for us, so I'll save this one for last. He says, it boggles the mind to think of who Tracy's father might be. The baby of the family. She must have been bored, real bored with John by then. Really? I mean, if she was bored with John by the time Jack was born, then bored with John by the time Ashley was born, really? John will have no children. Actually, let's see, there will actually be no shared children between Dina and John. That could potentially be the trajectory there, because Billy is Jill's child. Oh Lord, they're dismantling the Abbott family here. And Gary also says, at the high school reunion coming up next week, just think of all the old roosters that are still around that will come out of the closet to reveal that they had affairs with Dina too. It's going to be a free-for-all. Yeah, I said it before, I'll say it again. Happy anniversary, Y&R fans! Ooh. Hopefully next week is going to be a little more uplifting. I know I shouldn't expect the show to always be uplifting. But, then I got to come on and talk about it, and I like making you guys feel good, not sad. So selfishly, I'm like, man, this week's a bummer. But you know what? Maybe it's all going to turn out and into a positive place. Life's hard, life's sad, and these are very real situations. So, I mean, as much as I really kind of prefer to put my head in the sand when it comes to my entertainment, maybe there are some positive things that we can take away from it too. It's been, I think it's been educational. It'll continue to be educational. It's been compelling. You guys are talking about it. That is one thing that I always like to see, and my yardstick of a successful storyline is people talking. If you can get people talking, then I think that's good for the show too, especially a show that's been on for 45 years. So yeah, we'll see where we are next week. As Gary said, we've got our parade of people coming back onto the show. So we'll get to see a lot of old faces mingling with our current faces, and I just keep thinking about Victoria's neck. Hopefully she what is going to happen when Nikki sees that too? Okay. I started wanted to get positive, and then it dragged me back down. It dragged me back into it. So I better go while I'm still on at least a little bit of a positive note. Let's think about the party that we're gonna have next week. 45 years. That's a blast. I did screen cap some of those happy midway point frame Y&R anniversary cards that we got, and the opening of the show also said something like forever young and restless, or 45 years forever young and restless. So I screen capped a few of those. If you want to go to the website at yrchat.com to see those. I screen capped a lot of photos this week, although I specifically did not screen cap the JT and Victoria thing. I said, you know what, that's too brutal. I don't need to show it. We all saw it. We don't need to see it again. So I skipped that one, if anyone's wondering why. But I got a lot of other frames around it. I mean, the shot of Victoria sitting in the bathroom was very effective. I mean, the camera work was beautiful and everything this week, too. And obviously, you guys were very impacted with it, because I already saw a lot of comments through the week, and I'm expecting lots of comments this upcoming week. So again, YRChat.com. I love seeing all your faces up there. That's so cool. But I'd love to see some more faces and some more profiles, and I'll look forward to the parade of faces at our celebration next week. Okay, everybody, I hope that you have a really good week. Let's all focus on something positive, like Allie's kitten art. Or a cake. Let's focus on that 45th anniversary cake. Oh, I'll see you guys next Sunday. I love ya. Bye.